I asked Carl Braaten a few years ago how many last books he intended to write, and he answered that he was still having fun doing theology. Now he claims he got bored during the pandemic and wrote a new one. It's definitely worth your time to read. I'm referring to the book A Harvest of Lutheran Dogmatics and Ethics, published by the American Lutheran Publicity Bureau. Now, full disclosure, Carl and I had spoken about the book when my wife and I visited him last fall, and he sent me the copy I read. Additional disclosure, I serve as vice president of the board of the publisher. That and a couple dollars might get me a ride on the New York subway, although I don't know why I would be riding it at this point. The interesting thing about this book is that Carl personally knew or knows all of the subjects, and generally considers all of them as friends. He also is very generous in his evaluations, even though in some cases he has serious disagreements with them. The final person he reviews is himself, and he certainly does belong in the company of the others. I personally would put him somewhere near the top. Carl says that his concern is that the contributions of this notable group may be forgotten, and he believes, rightly in my opinion, that their theological accomplishments need to be remembered and built upon. There is a lot to be harvested from these 12 theologians of the 20th and early 21st century, as the title suggests, and Carl is certainly in a good position to guide us in that process. The names are a who's who of Lutheranism in my lifetime. Robert Bertram, Edward Schroeder, Gerhard Forde, William Lazarus, Bob Benny, Paul Sponheim, Phil Hefner, Ted Peters, George Lindbeck, Robert Jensen, Paul Hinlicky, and of course Carl himself. The chapter on each theologian begins with a brief biographical page, followed by Carl's description of their contributions and his take on strengths and weaknesses of each one's work. Because of the distinct topic of each chapter, the book lends itself to reading on an airplane, as I did, or as one has a few minutes. Carl's style is very accessible, and those of us who know him personally will often hear his voice speaking through the words on the page. My wife, whom I would describe as a thoughtful layperson without formal theological training, except for following me around for more than a third of a century and knowing many of these folks personally, found the book helpful and enlightening. I'm not as acquainted with some of the folks Carl reviews as I probably should be, so for me the book served as a helpful introduction to a few of them. In other cases, since I've spent a lot of time under the influence of Robert Jensen, Paul Hinlicky, and Bob Benny, along with Carl, I appreciated the angles he took on their and his work. Carl makes no pretense of being neutral, but I believe his evaluations of all these theologians are very fair. At 92 years of age, Carl can look back on his life and ministry with appreciation for his time and contemporaries, as well as with the confidence that his place as a prominent ecumenical theologian in the Lutheran tradition is assured. We can hope that there are many more books to come from his keyboard, and that God will continue to bless him with good health, strength, and wisdom, just as a note he played tennis the morning of the day we visited him, and I'm told he's a fierce competitor. I recommend this book, whether one is highly conversant with the subjects or only heard their names somewhere. If you want to understand the Lutheran theological giants of the generation immediately preceding or including most of us, this book is an excellent place to begin. I wish it would be required reading for anybody preparing for parish ministry. You can purchase the book for $18 from alpb.org, and if you go to the website, Carl's introduction included there will give you a taste of what he was trying to accomplish, and in my mind, he succeeded.